Yeah, so welcome to Vasily's garden, folks. Well, I didn't realise you were actually already here. I'm just sitting here pruning my espaliered trees. Come here every month or every month or so just to inspect on them, because you can see there's a lot of new growth coming on. We're looking at an orange tree here. It's doing mighty fine, although I don't see any fruit on it this time round, so we've lost a little bit of a fruit cycle on it, but that's not too much of a worry. At the beginning, we had a good harvest from these trees earlier on. I'm looking at the lime tree, and mind you, while I'm looking at the lime tree, I can see the bloody grass has just blown in. This hasn't spread from the lawns outside. Pieces have flown in here when we're sort of brush cutting or mowing, and look at its set root. Now that's all got to get dug out before it spreads out too far. But looking back at the lime tree here, look at all the new growth that's come on. Last time I showed you, it was nice and flat, we thinned it out. Now we've got more growth, so if you come out on the side here, like this, it's grown out a lot. We don't want it to be out this far, so we're going to cut it back to a couple of buds, 2 or 3 buds. You know, just shorten it all out. Look at this. This is starting from down here. We don't need it. In actual fact, this has got to come off completely. We'll just keep cutting it back because it's quite healthy. That's all it is. The tree's healthy. It's putting on its growth. It hasn't flowered. And if it has, I can't see them. I mean, the fruit that is. But like I said, I'm not too worried about that. I'm trying to establish the framework on these. And over time, they'll start to fruit for us anyway, because these are only a couple of years old, 2.5, 3 years old. So, I mean, for that sort of age, this has grown tremendously well. I mean, the trunk is fantastic. Look at that. So it's a real healthy tree. Mandarin, quickly, let's have a look at this one too. This is an imperial mandarin, and it's doing tremendously well. Remember in the past, I'm not sure if you saw it or not, but we had a lot of leaf curling. That was the moisture issue, that it was dehydrating too quickly. Now, for a citrus tree, this is probably the best location you can get. You know, it's got a raised bed, so it's got the good drainage, it's got the framework to stop it from wobbling around and keeping it nice and stable, because even with high winds they don't like it, and even if it gets a little bit windy here, they're stable, they're not getting beaten up to death. And they get plenty of sunlight, so good aeration, plenty of sunlight, and obviously a good feed. And I feed them with our superfood and black grit, and that's all it is. Now this just needs to be thinned out again, and really, again, with citrus trees, there's not a lot you need to think about when it comes to pruning other than just thinning them out and taking out every second leader so you don't have too many clusters like that. You don't need all that, all this stuff here. So if you're trying to establish your espalier, cut the ones that are growing into the fence. You only want them to grow north, south, or north, south, east, west. Not north, south horizontally, vertically, or, you know, flat wise, east, west. So we're doing that all pretty well. But the last one I want to show you, look, I've got a bit of work on this. I'm not going to sit here letting you, or let you sit here watching me pruning it. Let's go and have a look at the lemon tree. Now this is the one that we struggled in the past with, and it's kicked off beautifully. And like all good plants, when a plant is healthy and got lots of succulent juice coming through it, the bloody rabbits come up here too and try and ring bark it. Have a look at that. That's fresh. That's probably a couple of days old there, folks. You know, you turn your back on the plants and they get attacked by these bloody rabbits. So if you got possums, I pity you. If you got rats, I pity you. If you got rabbits, well, do you pity me? Because that's what's happening. But anyway, look at the growth. Healthy, strong growth. For spraying, for CGWS, lots of emails come through about that. Don't spray them when the leaves are this small. Don't spray your trees at all when they've got small leaves like this. Not only with CGWS, no oil spray, no insecticide, no other fungicide, because you can damage the new growth on it. You can burn it quite quickly. It needs to settle down, it needs to get its green colours in, so go away from the juvenile leaf and establish itself. And you can see how harsh the weather is, because some of the older leaves, you know, they've copped a beating. They have been beaten around by the high winds, but yet, because it's stable, it doesn't move too much, the tree handles it and it adapts to the climate. And it's happy because it's got the drainage, and probably, you know, quietly speaking, this little bit of ring barking is like girdling, where you don't rip off all the bark around the tree, but just enough to stress the tree out, and that way it kicks into gear and starts pushing more sap up there. So maybe leading the rabbits to do a bit of ring bark is not a bad thing, as long as they don't destroy the tree completely, you know. But I'm not going to take my chances. So with things like that, a bit of glade wrap around the base is all you need. Don't use tape, because I've done that in the past, and I found that if you leave it on too long, and when you go to pull it off, it becomes a bit soggy on the underside where the bark is if moisture gets in there. It's like an old band-aid. You know, when you peel it off your finger, that part where it's been covered goes really soft and white. It's because there's no airflow there. So that's the same thing with the bark on the tree. If you're going to put something around it, something that's not adhesive, and that way it's just a barrier and it stops the rabbits from chewing through and getting into the bark and sucking the juice out of the tree. So citrus trees, espaliers, well, these ones certainly need a prune and a weed in the garden. And if you've got espaliers, get onto them. Don't prune them once a year. Prune them as regularly as possible, as often as possible. So that way they shape up really well. They don't get too woody before they establish their format. So prune them regularly, feed them regularly. Every 3 months is what I do. And obviously protect them from wildlife and rabbits and things like that as well. CGWS is what we use, but not on new growth like that, because that could be a lot damaging on the young growth. Even eco oil can do a bit of burning and damage on the growth like that. Spray them later once they're established, and obviously never spray when there are flowers on. For all the products you need, they're available on our website as well as your local garden centre, folks. We're out there, we're getting out there, and each day that goes by more garden centres are coming on board, so thank you very much. We're looking forward to establishing every state as well as we have in Victoria. Everything you want from Vasili'sGarden.com. From me, Vasili, Maresi.